why did you decide to specialize in this? Because it's a niche, right? Digital art is a very specific kind of segment in the art space.
Well, to be honest with you, it kind of led me to this direction, the history, the life path of myself and the curiosity, probably also by looking for like some answers to my questions. Um, to be more precise, probably I was in different fields. I have various educations, and one of them is also finance and banking. And
Mm,
I was consulting a lot, and I was also like attending art basels, and I was collecting, and I was working with wealthy individuals who had like big collections as well back at the time. And you know, when you have to do collection management, or you have to do the let's say Lombard loaning against the piece of work art, you have to look at the whole history, provenance, you know, so you simultaneously learn a lot. And one of the things that crossed my mind is that if I was, let's say, a wealthy individual as my clients are, could I possibly build a museum quality collection back at the time? And I'm talking now like back 20 years. I'm not talking about last 5 years. I'm talking about like
mhm.
20 years ago. And that's probably would be a mission impossible even 20 years ago, because if you look at the contemporary art, traditional contemporary art back at the time, most of the works were already in the hands of either institutions or private individuals with private museums. And the waiting list to get one or good two, three like works of top artists, you would be in a waiting line forever. Like you sometimes you have to wait for like 10 years just, you know, for this wanted piece of art to come out on the market, so you can actually, maybe you have a chance if you have enough finances to acquire it to your collection.
Yeah,
So for me it was already kind of late, you know, in terms of like looking from this perspective. If I want to build something which is substantial, which has a quality, and with the means that I had, I'm not a billionaire, so I was like looking around and analyzing what's going on and what's happening. It fascinated me how the art market works, so I got myself involved and I studied collection photography because that was my passion. And somehow this innovation fascinated me in a sense. And I really liked the fact that, you know, photography was also back at the time was not accepted by traditional art world. So, you know, sort of refuse factor, how it found a way to become fine art
yep.
with the ecosystem that we have now. And and back at the time, again, I'm talking about, let's say, 20 to 15 years ago, there was still a possibility to collect and to build a very substantial collection of photography, with different focus, because photography is also very, very diverse. So I was specializing more in the vintage photography, where again you can like really look into the story. You can look how artists can be chemists from time to time. You know, it's not necessarily about the composition, and they've been experimenting a lot with the camera,
Mhm.
not only about the camera that was evolving over time, but also about the vision of artists that they had back at the time in the beginning of 20th century. So black and white photography, and that was literally the focus of my collection. And by building the collection, of course, you do engage yourself with galleries and curators and exhibitions. And I think I attended most of the traditional art fairs worldwide over the years, to
Mm,
understand how everything, how the system works, how the valuation works, why do they show this and why don't they show that, you know, like. And of course
mhm.
there are many, many, many nice and interesting stories about forgeries, and you know, like transparency is always a question. And you know, then you have to have an expertise of another expert, you know, just to qualify,
Yeah.
okay, is it really like a particular era of this paper and print, if we're not talking about digital photography.
Mhm.
So it kind of, it's an interesting market, and that captured my attention. And 2016, I opened up my advisory firm here in Switzerland, specializing in certain areas, particularly, you know, collection building and collection management, and also
Mhm.
you know, and from the perspective of finding the right works, you know, if you're building or already have built a collection.
Okay.
And the gallery kind of idea came slightly later because of my reaction to what I've learned, I would
Mhm.
say.